in the future.
There are no people.
There are no people in the future.
No people at all.
There are no people in the future.
Where did all my people go?
There are no people in the future.
Let me try my people call. Where are all my people? Where are all my people? I guess I'll fly away now.
Hey, everybody, welcome. Yes, we are finally here this morning. We just had a little technical issues this morning, and it's like, classic for this week. I don't know about you, but this week has been absolutely insane in so many different ways, but we'll get into that certainly. So welcome. It is a special Thursday edition of the Friday Politics Roundup. It is May 19th, 2022. Welcome to Raging Chicken's Out to Coop podcast, our Friday/Thursday Politics Roundup. This is Ken Mahoney, creator and founder of Raging Chicken, and each week we break down the good, the bad, and the ugly in state and national politics. And this week I am joined once again by guest host Amy Knecht. Hey, Amy.
Hello.
Well, you can help support this show by becoming a patron for as little as $5 a month. Head on over to patreon.com/rcpress. You become a patron. Choose your membership level. It doesn't have to be 5. It could be 10. It could be 50. Who knows? You can also help out the show by heading over to our YouTube channel if you're not there already. Smash that subscribe button, like the stream for this show, and hit that notification bell so you'll know every time we go live. And as you know, thanks to our members who have helped supported this show, we're at the point now where it looks like we're going to be able to add in a multi-stream, which basically means our Friday show, our Out to Coop live show, anything that we do live, we'll be able to multi-stream to multiple platforms. So you'll start seeing us on Facebook Live, you'll start seeing us on Twitch, you'll start seeing us on pretty much, probably Twitter too as well. I think we're going to be able to do that. I got to test a few things out first, but that's something to look forward to. And that's the kind of thing that makes possible. It's made possible through your support and your membership. So thank you. Today's show, we're going to be doing a little PA Primaries Roundup. We'll be taking a look at our experiences of Election Day. Amy's going to preview us a little bit about, why did Jim Miller and Craig Stats show up at the Springtown Firehouse on Tuesday? That'll be an interesting conversation.
Oh, yeah.
I'll break down a little bit about my experience at my first time ever as a judge of elections at Ward 1 in Percy. It was actually an awesome day, but I'll get into that. Got some great kind of major election results that are showing a increasing desire among Democratic-based voters to reject the corporate Democrat policies and support progressive candidates. We had some great wins here in Pennsylvania. We'll get into some of that too as well. And Democratic voters are pushing back against, corporate guns in key races. That is not just in Pennsylvania, but that happened across the country last night. So this is actually all good news. In our second segment today, we are going to take a look about what is up in Bucks. News around the county. We're looking at the abortion rights rally that took place this past Sunday in Doylestown. That feels like a week and a half away, but it was just this past Sunday. And Ashley Ahas was there, of course, bringing the heat in her speech, and I was glad to see it. We'll talk about what happened at the Palisades school board meeting, right after their first live stream. Huge win for the crew. Yep. We'll talk about Central Bucks continuing to go off the rails, now moving sex ed online because, apparently because they've removed their masking policy and their kids are no longer wearing masks, which protect them against kind of sexually inappropriate education, apparently. So if they would just wear their masks, they'd be fine. No, I'm just kidding. But it's just it's just an insane situation. For all the reopened people who came out for Central Bucks, now they're shutting down sex ed and forcing kids back to online learning. Nuts. Now, this is not quite an election day story, but I just learned this morning, thanks to a little tip, that on Monday, the Percy Borough Council voted to appoint Kim Badillion to the Civil Service Commission, and they are in charge of the police. Kim Badillion was the one that was all behind the anti-DEI conspiracy theories here. And she's also head of the Penridge GOP. So how about that? And today's last call, we're going to maybe have a little book chat. We're going to talk about some things Amy and I have been talking about, cooking up, something to look forward to, and seeing what we're reading and seeing what kind of books are filling Amy's back seat as she drives around to small little locations and specialized book dealing places around the corner. This county. And look, if you're looking for more PA Progressive Talk, tune into the Rick Smith Show every day. And I'm sorry, guys, I'm having weird stuff with my levels today. Sorry. To the Rick Smith Show's live stream at 9 p.m. Eastern on his YouTube channel, Twitter, or Facebook. Check out all his info about where to get his show by going to thericksmithshow.com. And look, Sister of the Night Caucus podcast is flooding your streams. And if you're not listening to it already, man, get on over there for the insider tips. Right, you can find it on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you get your podcast. The amazing PA women stirring the political cauldron behind the podcast rock the house, and they know where the bodies are buried. And look, we're going to need them even more as we go into it is going to be a critical midterm election. You can follow them on Twitter at the Night Caucus. That's at the Night Caucus on Twitter. And again, check out their podcast wherever you get your podcast. For all you gamers out there, the Game In, that's with 2 N's, is a Quakertown-based black family-owned gaming store. Friends of the show, and they've got everything for retro N64s, the latest consoles, video games for all platforms, collectibles, action figures, Funko Pops. Yes, and kids get a discount. They get a discount with A's on the report card. Check them out on their Facebook page. Follow them on Twitter at the Game In, that's with 2 N's. And look, if you're looking for something special or something hard to get, shoot them an email at thegameinpa@gmail.com. Special shout out goes to Jonathan Mann, who wrote our intro song, There Are No People in the Future. Check out all his great stuff on his YouTube page and follow him on Twitter at Song of Dayman, again with 2 N's, that's at Song of Dayman on Twitter. And this coming Monday, little program notes. We got Monday, this is the 23rd at 7 p.m. I'll have Sarah Aniano on the show. Sarah's a researcher who looks into social media misinformation and the rhetoric of the far right. She's gotten some national attention now thanks to her freaking amazing work. There's a great piece that was recently came out in CNET that highlighted her work and the work of some other graduate students who are the ones who have been digging in to these far right networks and how they're spreading misinformation. This is going to be an awesome show. I'm really looking forward to talking to Sarah on Monday. And she's going to be kind of turning her efforts to, cleaning up our information ecosystem online. So kind of learn more about that. Check out and listen to her work. That's on Monday. And then on Monday the 30th, we have Kirsten Zolfel back on the show. And we're going to pull that moderate mask off of Representative Brian Fitzpatrick's record. Kirsten, of course, is the PA Indivisible Legislative Chair and editor of the PA Member of Congress Tracking Report. You've heard her on the show before. It's always a great time. So come on back for Monday the 30th. And look, if we want a progressive future, we need progressive media. Support Pull No Punches, homegrown progressive media today by becoming a patron of Raging Chicken for as little as $5 a month. Just go to patreon.com/rcpress. Look, we are in a dire situation at this point, so we have to build out this kind of progressive media network in addition to our entire organizational infrastructure. So look, if you can help out, we appreciate it, because look, we're here for the fight, but we need you. Become a patron for the price of a good beer once a month. Keep the media in the movement the media. Become a patron for as little as $5 a month by going to patreon.com/rcpress today. So Amy, it's so great to have you back on the show. How's it going?
Good morning. It's been a busy week, like you said. There's
been
a lot going on. Actually, it's been a couple of busy weeks. So
yeah, it's been. I think after the draft Supreme Court opinion about Roe dropped, it seemed like everything went into overdrive, where every day became like it seemed like 5 days packed into one.
It did. It definitely did. There was just so much, especially like within the news cycle. There was just all of a sudden everything was coming at you at once. So, but I had finals, and it was nice to be able to kind of like turn the news off though for a few days.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you. So it's funny because I had, it was the end of my semester too as well, and I had all my grading to do, and I literally kind of come up to air grading and check on the news. And I'm like, oh Jesus Christ.
Yeah, definitely. I'm trying to play catch up with everything this week. So.
Indeed. Well, I thought, it's a perfect. I mean, it's a perfect time to take a look at what's happened in PA primaries, of course, for everybody. Where if you're from out of Pennsylvania, you probably have heard about it already because it's making national news everywhere. Tuesday was the PA primaries. Amy and I were both kind of out in the polls in kind of different ways. So we're going to check in and kind of a little bit about kind of what our experience was like, and then kind of think a little bit about what some of the takeaways are. So, what was your primary day like, Amy?
I mean, my primary day was pretty laid back. It was nothing like the past election. It wasn't as tense. But this is also an area where, I mean, people steadily come through the polls all day long. I don't think we get large crowds
Right.
up this way. There was a couple of hiccups. I was doing I was scheduled for a shift at the Springtown Firehouse up here in Springfield Township. And I was up there for a while, and I was actually really glad that I got put there because we had two candidates show up.
How about that?
As you mentioned, yeah. We had Jim Miller, who was a Democratic write-in candidate for the 145th. And I just heard from his wife that they are comfortable saying that, yes, he did get on the ballot. So, yay.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Because we need somebody to go toe-to-toe with Stats. But he also showed up at the firehouse. He showed up in his car. I had a big logo on it that said Representative Stats, and he was bringing signs and that kind of stuff. I must mention, though, he really should update his flyer picture because he's graying a little bit around the edges there, and it's not so much on his picture in the flyer. So it's a bit misleading on his age there.
Was his actual picture kind of like, his head on like Arnold's body or something like Arnold? My name is Craig Stotts. No,
it's just a picture of him with like a younger photo. I wasn't sure because when he showed up, I said, "Oh my gosh, is that Representative Stats?" And it was. So I was not expecting that.
Well, look, this is going to be interesting. How this all came out. I mean, especially, Stats has got to do different kinds of work now. I mean, he's got to get out there because of the redistricting, and the 145th is, now includes you all, right? Kind of on that side of the county.
Yeah, I was generally surprised to see him. And I mean, he was cordial and stuff like that. I did get a chance to speak with him a little bit. I think I caught him off guard because I was curious as to like where his presence was on Sunday in Doylestown. I figured that was such a high profile event. Josh Shapiro was there. There was all these candidates. It was a big deal. And I would have figured that our representative, whether he's a Republican or a Democrat, would be out there to see what's going on. And I asked him, and I said, we missed you on Sunday, and I don't think he quite knew what to say.
And he was like, what? Like, what you mean at church?
Yeah, right. Well, he did tell me he was at a wedding on Saturday, and he never actually answered the question. He only eventually ended up saying, well, I can't be everywhere at once. Something to that effect.
Yeah, and you're like, well, that's exactly the point, Representative Stats, right? So you chose what over this, right, is the question.
Yeah, and I just told him, and I said, well, we'll be sure to catch you the next time.
Well, I'll tell you, this is going to be, I think, increasingly the uncomfortable questions for our Republican representatives, right, about their stance on abortion and what happened what's going to happen with Roe v. Wade, right? And one thing I think is really interesting, the fact that he would have that kind of response, right, or kind of like, well, I don't know. I think that at least activists, I don't know if the Democratic Party consultant class has really got their head around this yet, but at least for activists and people who are campaigning locally, are starting to see that, these candidates are going to be asked their position on stuff. And they're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place because now they can't kind of say, well, we're always looking for safe ways to kind of, make sure that, women have access to blah, 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 blah. No, because if the question is, where do you stand on abortion rights, right? Where do you stand on abortion? How do you respond to what the Supreme Court is going to do? And what are you going to do to kind of protect these things? Now they're caught between, okay, a very unpopular position of having to say, no, I'm with the Supreme Court in kind of turning women into second-class citizens, right? Or they say like, well, in Pennsylvania, we need to make sure women's rights are protected. Then they're going to completely alienate their base.
Yeah.
So it actually, I think this is, for those candidates who are going to be unabashed supporters of abortion rights, I think this is an asset that they need to push hard against these Republican candidates to expose them for who they are. But
Yeah, I totally agree. And like I said, I was not expecting to see him. I mean, I'm not sure that I've ever really seen any. I mean, I guess the candidates, I know that's common for them to go around to the different polling locations and stuff like that, but I've never seen him before. So, well, but kudos to him for at least making his rounds.
yeah, exactly. So, and now he can face the new voters, right? Can't get too comfortable up there in Quakertown. So let me ask you this. I'm curious. So did you have opportunity to get a sense of where, say, Democrats who were coming out, what they were thinking about, what was on their minds, who they were supporting?
Yeah, I mean, basically, so the sample ballot that we had, I mean, it had marked off for like Josh Shapiro, Austin Davis, Ashley Ehas, Mark Pinsley, and then the write-in, Jim Miller, which a lot of people up here were familiar with his name. And I'm glad that I think that the Democrats, I think a lot of people pretty much went with like what the sample ballot had on there, but I don't think there was a whole lot of other options. I think that we're starting to see a bit more unity coming out around some of these candidates, like you said, that are more progressive and they're not your moderate, run-of-the-mill, like old school style Democrats, right?
Right.
Who are more aligned, I feel like, with the Republicans than anything. I do think that people are becoming alarmed. People were making mentions about just how they're getting, like, just about what's going on up here, about what's going on with somebody like, say like with Mastriano.
Yep.
The type of stuff that comes out of his mouth. And I'm hoping that people are going to be hopeful. I don't know. This isn't a real big Democratic stronghold up in this area. There was a lot more Republicans I saw coming.
Oh, certainly.
A lot more people at the Republican table.
So what about if we're talking about at the statewide races? Did people talking about Fetterman, about Connor Lamb, about Kenyatta or anything like this?
Yeah. So okay, so if we get to that, so people are very excited about Fetterman. Very excited about Fetterman. I mean, he definitely, I think, has been able to light a fire under some people. I think he's probably one of the more popular candidates up here. I think, I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about him in the Senate. I always kind of figured he would have been better in the House. I didn't really have a chance to talk to too many people about the state race. I mean, people are okay with Josh Shapiro, like for the governor's race and stuff like that. I think it's half and half. I think you have people who are voting for him just because he's like the candidate and he's a Democrat. And then you have other people that are really excited about him. I've heard him speak twice now. I think he's okay. I think he needs to get a little bit more fired up.
100%.
But I mean, I was talking with a lot of the voters that were coming in, and they're concerned about the extremism. They're concerned about really, ban on books and what's going on with women's rights and the SCOTUS leak. And that's really making a huge difference too, right there, I think, is that leak that came from the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I'm thinking that I do think that he's going to mobilize a heck of a lot of folks, which I'm super happy. I mean, obviously, this is something there should have been a party wide Democratic Party wide mobilization of this 15 years ago. But here we are. And this has been what we're seeing a lot of the kind of the criticisms of the Democratic Party, at least at the national level, even statewide level, of backing off any kind of full-throated support of kind of abortion rights to try to play this kind of wishy-washy center role. It's just not going to cut it anymore. And I think that we're seeing some of that happening, and even where, like in a district like yours, where it's not a strong Democratic stronghold or something like this, still that's going to count. It's going to be important for the statewide races, where people like Fetterman think to get at the Senate level, we got that's such a critical Senate seat, but also for governor. I mean, I think I'm hoping that that's going to get people motivated to get out and vote. So even if they're discouraged about, okay, we're in a strong Republican area, so we're probably not going to get our, say, local state rep candidate. But again, there's nothing that's off the table. But it's still, they'll come out to the importance of those statewide races, and if those are important enough, that's also going to boost down the local stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I was getting the general sense that people were feeling the weight of this election, right, of the primaries, and feeling that, like, okay, like this is serious, right? I mean, I guess maybe to some things haven't been serious up until this point. I don't know.
Right.
But I will tell you something. I was speaking with a few Republicans too, and stuff like that. And I'll tell you, I think a lot of people this was a tough election. People they were really taking their time about choosing who they wanted. People seemed to be informed about their particular candidates this year. It didn't seem to be just run down the Democratic straight line or run down straight, well, it is for the primaries, but there was different candidates, and people were really having a hard time, I think, picking, because there were so many good candidates, especially for governor. We had, I think, a lot of good options this time, and it was refreshing because I actually, like, for me personally, I sat there and I must have sat there for at least 5 minutes. I thought I knew who I was going to vote for when I walked in, and I still debated and stuff like that. And I was getting that sense from a few of the Republicans I had talked to as well, because their race is vitally important.
Right.
I mean, the Republican Party is basically being split in two right now.
Yeah, 100%. Did you were the Mastriano people very strong out there in support of his candidate, or was it more subdued? How would you talk about it?
I don't know. I didn't. So I moved to a different polling location, to the municipal building, for a little while with a friend of mine, Jamie, and we were over there. And when we were at the firehouse, like the Republicans at the table, they were older gentlemen. They were talking and to their people and stuff like that, but I wasn't hearing a whole lot of nonsense coming out. I mean, I heard about Doug Mastriano, but people were talking about a lot of other candidates too. Their table was covered with so much information, way more than the Democrats had.
Yep.
But when we were over at the other voting location at the municipal building, the Republicans, they were really aggressive. I mean, they were harassing voters walking in. They were trying to be like, you need to see this Republican ballot. Do you want to be on this? You would tell them no. They would keep, asking you questions. They were really aggressive about it, and they were using just a lot of fear tactics. And it sounds a lot like a lot of what they were saying is the same kind of crap that Mastriano said in his acceptance speech, right? Like, it was all just, how about that CRT? We're going to get rid of it. It was the same kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty great. I had and in my polling place, right? I was I've mentioned this a little bit on the show, but that I was elected through a write-in for judge of elections in my ward, in part because nobody was running, and I was at the last minute. I'm like, oh man, I should step up. And I'll say my experience has been in my polling place. Right. The people that work that polling place, who have been there since, most of them have been there for most of my time since I've moved to Percy. Most of them have worked there, and they're just awesome. Right. And again, it would be the kind of thing, if you walked in there and you didn't know these folks, you wouldn't know what party affiliation they were and everything like this. And everybody is always been wanting to make sure that people got the right to vote. I mean, and it's really remarkable being on that side of things, where campaigning is not allowed inside the ballot place, and you're really focused on troubleshooting some things where people have kind of weird situations, right? Or because the districts have changed, they don't understand why their candidate is not there, things like that. Or and I want to give a couple shout outs. Number one, I'm already kind of doing that to the the folks that worked in the Percy Ward 1 it was just absolutely phenomenal. But some of the unsung heroes are the folks at the County Board of Elections. And we've heard this rhetoric, right, for decades about, government bureaucracy. It makes things less efficient, and, that we got to get rid of it. Everything's got to be privatized because it's more. I'll tell you this. We had a list of, I think it was 6 numbers, phone numbers to call. and you had to call for, little things like you want to make sure the person's registration is right or something like this. I would call the number, and like my thought was, okay, there's 6 numbers here because it's going to be a really busy day. So I'm going to call the first one and then work down the line. Never once did I have to go to the second number, right? I call the first number, a real person picks up the phone, right? And I ask them a question, I tell who I am, ask them a question, and they have the answer, right? To my questions. And they were incredibly pleasant and tolerant. I kept on saying, look, I'm new to this. I just want to make sure. And they were amazing, right? And I'm thinking like this, if this was a private company, I would be like, welcome to the County Board of Elections, right? We would like to tell you, make sure you listen to all selections because our selections have changed. Number 1, press 1 if you, and you'd be this long drawn out process. No, got to talk to a person right away. They had the answer, and I was off the phone. I was able to give those voters those answers in a matter of like a couple minutes. Right. And then at the end of the day, you have to bring all the ballots and all the materials out to Bucks County Courthouse. Right. So you've got all these districts, all these, or these polling places and precincts basically converging on the Board of Elections at the same time. Right. And I'm like, oh, this is going to be I was like generally kind of nervous about this because I hadn't done it before. And like, how am I going to know? It was well organized. I had waited in line with the cars for about a minute before I was asked to come over to a parking place. Walked in, they ushered me through, clear directions, everyone from the police that were at the front checking, making sure that everything's safe, to the polling places, direct you right there. They had a system set up, and I was out of there in, I would say 15 minutes is probably pushing it, right? Less than that. So to all the folks, the unsung heroes at the Board of Elections who probably get a lot of crap like on a normal day, thank you, because those folks are just absolutely amazing. So, and so again, that gave me, some encouragement on the other side of things to see that just people just trying to keep things fair, just trying to make sure that it was efficient, just making sure that all the kind of like, the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. It was really impressive. So that's my shout out for the day. But so anyways, in Ward 1, again, we had one guy who was out. We had a what do you call it? A karaoke machine that was using as a loudspeaker, and he was kind of, knew the rules, so he was kind of outside the zone where you're not allowed to have any kind of amplified devices, and he was saying all sorts of nonsense about the Democratic Party, all the conspiracy theories that you can kind of hope to say. He was doing that. Like what you experienced in Springtown Firehouse is that the Republicans are far more organized. They had more materials. They had more people, right? No, Democrats had folks at our polling place, and they were there all day, right? But when I got there at like 5:45 in the morning, all the Republican stuff was already set up. All the signs were already up. Everything was ordered, and they were able to dominate that, just the kind of real estate, if you will, about where the signs are, right? And you're not allowed, to go and say move somebody else's sign so you can put yours there. Yeah. So I mean, that's like one of these like little small logistical things that gives you a clue about what's going on. The second thing is that we actually ran out of Republican ballots there, because the turnout was so strong, and it was such a strong, motivated turnout on the Republican side, right? So, again, call the County Board of Elections. What do we do about this? Here's your solution. Then everybody had, in the end, we were able to, because we were able to get access, additional blank ballots, we were able to make sure that everybody voted, and we still ended up with a few extras. But, that was just an example of it. And then finally, the other thing that was interesting is that in the Ward 1, Kathy Burnett, right? I know she lost, right? She lost the race for Senate on the Republican side, but she won our ward 2-1. And Doug Mastriano won the ward almost 3-1. Right? Fetterman
really tells you about who is coming out.
Exactly. So these are my and I would say the other thing, Fetterman trounced Counter Lamb too, by it was like no question. So the two couple takeaways for me, right, is that, and this is what I'm curious. This is why I'm curious what's happening in the other Bucks County districts, especially Upper Bucks, where the school board stuff has been so, focused. I mean, my theory has been, look, this is part of the testing ground. This is part of a mobilization effort that we're seeing at the school boards, and just like Martino, right, Paul Martino has been saying he's now going to take his apparatus and how is he going to put it to work? Well, and I'm not saying that he was behind that kind of turnout, but I'm just saying this is the effect. This is what's downstream of those school board fights, right? And so that where in Penridge, where the fight about DEI, the fight about diversity, the fight about sex ed, the fight about banning books, the fight about masks, all that stuff translates into what? Kathy Barnett getting the nod, right? And those are the yard signs that were out around here, and those are the people that turned out to vote. And so, I think that, this is why we keep on shouting the alarms about how important these school boards are and these municipal elections are, because they are literally the training ground for what we're going to see in the fall.
Oh, it definitely is. I mean, and I didn't see, so up here, there was tons of Mastriano signs. There was, there was a couple of Fire Fritz, Vote Enton or what signs up here. There was Kathy Barnett signs all over the place with Kathy Barnett. There was maybe one or two Fetterman signs. I saw barely any Democratic signs. There was a few Ashley Ahas, but they were scattered.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know. I to be honest with you, I don't know if they're I guess you can go to your local Democratic committee to get signs, but
good luck with that.
Up here, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you,
that's how it is. I think the general consensus is these people are coming out and they mean business, and I am glad to see that we had Fetterman trounce Connor Lamb, because I don't think Connor Lamb would be up for this type of fight. He seems to be a little oblivious of stuff going on. And you can't ignore these guys. You can. I know they sound ridiculous. Mastriano sounds silly and terrible. Fitzpatrick is ridiculous. They're all ridiculous. Yep. But at the same point, you can't not take them seriously. They're in positions of power, or they will be in positions of power.
Absolutely. And I think, this is why I didn't mention this at the top of the show, but this is why, again, here at Raging Chicken, we started our kind of own PAC, right, in partnership with Level Field. And, we've got it online. I'm putting a link right now in today's chat. But it's don't let Paul Martino buy our schools, right? That we're trying to raise funds basically to invest in the organizing efforts that's happening for local candidates, to make sure that we're going to doing some of the infrastructural work, right? And some of the kind of campaigning that, frankly, the Democratic consultant class has really failed us on. And I think that this is such a critical election moving forward that we need to have our to put our money on the ground with the people who we need kind of elected. And these signs, for example, are a perfect example of this. It's I think, that's something that's got to come out early. That's got to come out, everywhere, to get the other side on their heels, because they have a system down. So we do that and kind of help these candidates get the word out early. And kind of go ahead and kind of and support, we're trying to support not falling into a pre-fascist future. It's I mean, I can't believe I even have to say this stuff, but it's crazy.
I know. It's so surreal. It doesn't feel real sometimes, because this is not. See, and that's what I think a lot of people have a problem wrapping their head around is because it's all over this supposed and imaginary American exceptionalism, right? And that we are like nobody else in the rest of the world, and we're not in a lot of ways. But at the same point, we're not immune to things either. And I think that just that bubble that Americans in general live in, right? Yep. From the rest of the world. This isn't talking about our own domestic problems, but just with a global focus. But these things can happen here. I mean, we're seeing it happen. We're seeing it happen right now. And people are like, "Oh no, that's not really going to happen." I just think people have a hard time imagining something that's not. I don't know. I just think they have a hard time imagining that, say, a country like ours, which is so rooted in democratic ideology, could fall to a totalitarian government or a fascist government or anything like that.
Yeah, and like this is the drip drip version of it, right? It doesn't happen in the in some dramatic fashion with fireworks and carnivals. It happens in this drip 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 of the slow kind of machine of
Backsliding.
democracy moving in the
Yeah.
wrong direction.
Yeah, it's backsliding. And like you said, and there's everything. I mean, oh, I could go on. So
Well, yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. That's why we have you here.
uh,
But so let's okay. So before we go to kind of into the darkness, right, which is very easy to do around here because of what's going on. There were some kind of very positive things happening. Number one, you've already mentioned one. Fetterman really. This is kind of, basically putting a nail in the coffin of the kind of corporate Democrat machine by just like trouncing Connor Lamb, in this. And I've said this before too, as well as like I know Malcolm Kenyatta was the favorite of a lot of progressive, right? He's got, I mean,
mhm.
he's a clear progressive. He shows up for movements. He shows up kind of around the state. He supports other candidates. He's fantastic. And my view, and I don't like especially if I have two candidates that I think are kind of can be important for different ways. I'm not gonna I'm not generally not going to take sides right then and there because I think Malcolm Kenyatta. I think it was going to be an uphill battle for Malcolm to begin with, in part simply because while he is known in political circles, he doesn't have the same kind of name recognition or the profile that someone like John Fetterman does. And
Yeah.
like Fetterman has gotten tons and tons of money coming in from around the country, right? Plus he's lieutenant governor. He's highly visible, right? And plus, like again, Malcolm's a black guy from Philadelphia, right?
Yeah.
Black gay guy from Philadelphia, right? And I know people were kind of already saying, well, we don't know if that's going to play in Philadelphia in Pennsylvania. I've always poo-pooed that kind of stuff. I do think it will play across the state. I really think it's just a matter of his name getting that statewide recognition, and he's done a tremendous job in kind of getting it out. And he did the thing on after the election, he basically said we're going to get out, we're going to support John Fetterman 100% and make sure we get him elected. All right, that's what you want. Because if you take the votes that Malcolm Kenyatta got and the votes that Fetterman got, you're talking about 70+% of the Democratic electorate were behind them, right? And so the Connor Lambs of the world are going far, far away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, and that's important. And I agree with what Cyril had said on Wednesday about Malcolm Kenyatta. Like, I mean, I personally, I voted for him. I was excited about him. Like I said, I was excited about Fetterman too. I'm not upset that Fetterman won.
Yep.
But at the same point, I think that Kenyatta has a really good future ahead of him. I mean, he took Philadelphia. So right there shows that he has a strong base already.
Exactly.
And I congratulate the both of them for that.
Yep, exactly 100%. So I think that's like positive going forward. Of course, the big story in Pennsylvania that's making national news right now is Summer Lee, right? Summer Lee.
Yeah, I'm not as familiar with her.
Summer Lee. Well, now I'll tell you, this is back in 2018 when she won her first election for Pennsylvania. Sean, when Sean Kitchener was doing a lot of writing for Raging Chicken and stuff like that. Sean, we went at the PA Progressive Conference, or this is before they had any name recognition, right? We're building up this progressive campaigns, and we have an interview. I'm probably going to re-release this here. We have Sean interviewed Summer Lee, Sarah Iniato. I can't believe I'm mispronouncing her name now. So I'll have to look it up and I'll say it again. And then Elizabeth Fiedler, right? The three of them were running kind of in kind of mutual support of each other. They were running kind of as a team and sharing resources and ideas and campaign thing, and they all won. Right. And they have proven to be, that was the beginning of a PA squad, right? That they were able to show that you could be a progressive and an out and out, like Elizabeth Fiedler got support of the DSA, as did Summer Lee.
Oh, that's great.
As did Sarah. They're amazing. Now, Summer Lee has been, from the get-go, Summer Lee has been the candidate who has said, I am an organizer and I am going to run, and I'm going to run as an organizer and I'm going to legislate as an organizer. And so she has been active back in her community, basically constantly organizing. When there were issues around, there were kind of like after the shooting of George Floyd, for example, right? She brought that organizing, that activism to the floor of the State House, right? Kind of, and took over the dais one day to kind of like in protest. I mean, that's who she is. And she is one of the most dynamic, most amazing candidates that could be out there. And I'll say this, right? I have contributed to her campaign. I wish I could vote for her. She is going to be one of the strongest voices that we have in Congress, right? Because this is a strongly Democratic district. So the chances of her like not winning in the fall are like slim to none. And she was running against Steve Irwin. Steve Irwin came in and got all this money piling in. He's an anti-union, right? Union busting lawyer, right? They got tons of money from like the Israeli lobby and kind of all these kind of anti-union folks, right? And he was running in there. And because the Allegheny Democrats, right, are so pissed off that they no longer have control over what is happening in their district, they're also getting behind him too as well. So even though Summer has won by huge margins because her district was redistricted again, this was another shot for the Allegheny Democrats to try to kind of take Summer Lee out. And no, that's not happening.
I can't. I've been hearing some reports about this, about the main, like the main head Democrat, the Democratic Party, like just taking sides like that and completely outright not supporting, other Democratic candidates. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Well, I understand if you don't particularly, maybe that's not your favorite, but you need to support every candidate.
Yeah, you would think, right? But that's not what they do. That is not what they do. Sarah Innamorato. I'm sorry for kind of butchering your name, Sarah. I know Sarah. So it's like I can't believe I'm fumbling on this morning. But Sarah won, Elizabeth won.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. No, go ahead. I was going to say.
I was going to say somebody needs to tell the Allegheny Democrats that that's Republican tactics right there, and they really need to not do that.
Oh, they've been told, and they don't care because they just want to maintain the old white guy privilege of their look. They're dinosaurs, and they're going away. Yeah. So, and this is just more proof. This is the second time, or they put up a conservative kind of right wing Democrat against Summer, and the last time they tried to primary out, there's not a chance. They're not going to touch it. She's got too much of a strong base and organizational base. But this was a tough race. She was up against a ton of money. And what put up, as she said in her acceptance speech, this is what put her over the top. It was people power. And it's 100%. So, yes, Ross says that, yes, progressives are finally gaining ground in PA. Absolutely, 100%. And I also say that if we take a look at what happened out in Lancaster County, we had Smith Waddell, I'm sorry, I just don't have his first name there. Oh God, I can't. Izzy, of course, I know his first name. Izzy Smith Waddell defeated Diaz for the 49th district. Now again, he was ahead of the city council there, I believe. He came out against a much more traditional Democrat, and he's an African American man who's also gay, and he won that. And he's going to be kind of going on. This is a strong Democratic district and go on to serve in the State House, we hope. But he's an amazing organizer. He's done tremendous stuff in the community, and he won that victory too. So we've got some really positive signs from around the state of Pennsylvania, I have to say.
That's good. That's good news.
Yes, indeed.
Especially after, last November. So that's definitely good.
Yep, absolutely. And so let me give you one other quick thing just about the primaries, because one of the things that I also think is encouraging, this is not just in Pennsylvania, but we saw wins going around the country. So for example, let me pull up the right article here. I think we had this one. I thought I already had it up. Here we go. So in addition to Summer Lee's victory, right, in Kentucky, former state representative Charles Booker, right, who narrowly lost his 2020 U.S. Senate primary, swept a victory in this year's Senate primary, winning 73% of the vote, the Democratic side, which means basically he's cleared the field on the Democratic side, and there wasn't a ton of, again, this corporate Democrat money kind of coming in to try to run against him. And now he's going to be going up against Rand Paul in the fall. Now, this is a long shot, we could say, but not impossible given the kind of organizing that's happened among teachers and community. And I love his slogan. He's got from the hood to the holler, right? That's his campaign. He's an amazing candidate. So that was a huge win for progressives there. In Oregon, we saw progressive challenger Jamie McLeod Skinner She basically campaigned addressing the climate crisis and protecting our democracy. And I don't know if the final numbers are in, but she was leading by a 2-to-1 margin in the initial count against the incumbent, the corporate-friendly incumbent, Kurt Schrader. That's out in Oregon. That's huge news, right? She is that Democrat is known out in Oregon as the kind of the Joe Manchin of Oregon, right? So that gives you a sense. Also in Oregon, there's the newly created 6th district there. Progressive State Representative Andrea Salinas won her race for the Democratic nod, right? So there were these kind of examples that we're seeing across the country. So that's great. Now we got some stuff to look forward to in Texas. I think it's May 24th is the Texas primary. So is that next week? Next week. And this is going to be another test, right? Jessica Cisneros is going up against the anti-abortion Democrat, the only anti-abortion Democrat in the House, who Democratic Party leadership have gone up, who supported him because he's one that's going to support Pelosi. So Jessica Cisneros is back, and she is again, Bernie Sanders campaign. She's an amazing progressive. She's going up against Quayler, yep. And we're going to see what happens in that race. So that's going to be absolutely kind of encouraging. So there's some positive moves, right? I know it's slow going, folks, but the organizing is working. But good stuff, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Well, isn't Marjorie Taylor Greene? Isn't somebody going up against her as well?
Oh, that's a good question. Let me see who's up.
I think his name is Marcus Flowers.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
I was thinking about that because I would love to see her ousted. Do
you think?
Did you see her Ultra Mag picture? Did I send that one to you? Where
no.
she colored her profile picture red and she gave herself the glowing eyes.
Yes. I did see that. I did see that.
I thought somebody did that as a prank at first, and then I realized she was the one who actually put that out there.
It's remarkable. Yeah. Yeah. What's his name? Gerald Longo? No. Here it is. What's his name?
Marcus Flowers.
Is it Marcus Flowers? That's his name?
Maybe I'm getting the campaign.
Oh, yep, Marcus Flowers. Yep, no, that's right.
Okay.
That's right. Marcus Flowers running up against Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? I would love to see her outed. That would be ousted, I should say. Yeah. She's outed as a fascist and ousted from Congress. That'd be great. All right, cool. Well, anything else? Kind of thoughts back on the primaries, or because look, we got Mastriano now is going up for the governor. We've got definitely some right wing. So, kind of some of the takeaways in general about kind of looking ahead to the fall.
Yeah. Well, so I was really disappointed with the behavior of a lot of the poll workers for the GOP that were up here. I especially this one, and he was a problem the last election cycle. He was very rude. He'd come up to our candidates and be like, oh, well, you're just a communist, right? Like right up in your face. And we had voters this time that were complaining about him. His name's Tom Cochran. He was, part of the local GOP up here, and he's aggressive and he's older. I mean, he came up to our table and got right in our faces as we were sitting there. We told him to stop. He was harassing voters. I think we had 4, 5, 6 different people mention how they were attacked by him as they were walking up. It's deplorable. That's not necessary. And then on top of it, the false information that was being distributed up here is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. We have our own, mini Tucker Carlson up this way, and she's really pushing this agenda that is it's false. It's fear-mongering. They're trying to get people all riled up about all kinds of information, and I'll talk about that more in the school board meeting.
Okay, cool.
In the next segment, but definitely, yeah, I don't know. I just wanted to address that. That really rubbed me the wrong way. I just felt like it was totally unnecessary, completely.
Do you know? Did anybody report him by any chance?
I don't know, because I don't think anything illegal was done. I think it was a lot of just pushing the boundaries. Just so.
Because I bet
the information they were distributing. I mean, it was outside of the polling stuff.
Sure.
It's not, they could do it. But the point of them doing it, right, is they're overstepping these non-verbal precedents, right? Just their glorious commander in chief. has done, just step all over these norms.
Right.
And, there's like this notion, right? Democracy functions on the ability to agree to disagree.
Right.
And when you keep pushing institutional boundaries, when you keep pushing norms past their point, they may not be illegal, but they really destroy, that whole notion of agreeing to disagree, right? This mutual toleration that we are supposed to have for different political parties in this country. And I just feel like this is going to get worse. It's going to get worse. I feel like November, we should be on our toes.
Well, and I'll say this is like everyone that I was working with on a polling place, there, and again, this is people from both parties. I mean, my ward and where I vote, obviously, there's a lot more Republicans here, and a lot of the people. And I don't know this for sure. I made it a point. I didn't want to talk politics with anybody, right? Who I was working with. I want to keep it focused. I didn't want to know what their party affiliation was, right? I mean, I literally had this kind of mentality walking in. I just want to have a really good team to do good work. That's really what I wanted, right? But right across the board, and I'm pretty sure most of them are Republicans, or at least half, let's say, everyone was concerned about the fall. And that's based in part by their experience in the last election.
Mm-hmm.
And there was, people got concerned. It's just, they basically would say it was one of the first times that they actually had some kind of, concerns about how the campaigning was and how kind of aggressive things were, and are kind of anticipating that going forward. So I do think, so I mean, little things like this. I mean, when we would organize different, protests and stuff, and you prepare to go to a protest, that there might be civil disobedience, or there's a chance of, say, arrest or something. We used to do things like, you basically take the lawyer's numbers and you Sharpie them on your skin, right? Or you have a card in your pocket that's got all your contact information and the kind of specific things that you need to know. And so I almost think is as one of those projects is we're preparing poll workers and people that are going to be campaigning at the polls, that having, these little things that we training in our rights and training in what is acceptable and is unacceptable on the other side, because I think when it's left up to us as individuals, we're trying to kind of negotiate. Well, they have a right to say these things, but do they have the right to intimidate it? I mean, that would be a really nice question to have answered, and have a nice little card that says this is where they've crossed the lines. Because it seems to me, by going up to your table and making these claims that harassing voters coming in and saying these things, that's not appropriate.
No, I don't think it is. I mean, you asked, you need help with ballot information. Somebody says no, and that's that. I mean, there's no reason why to keep speaking at them, to keep throwing information at them, to follow them up the ramp into the door. I mean, it's
right.
And it's intimidation tactics.
Right.
And this is what's happening on the right. This is how they operate. It is all intimidation. It's intimidation, it's fear, it's anything to get the base riled up to vote the way that you want them to vote.
That's it right there. That's 100% true. And so, I think one of my big takeaways is that, I don't think anybody on the anybody should feel comfortable that Doug Mastriano is going to be the Republican running for governor. As much as people want to say that Josh Shapiro, could win by as much as 20 points or 10 points, I've heard, various things. Do not underestimate Doug Mastriano and the Republican base coming out to vote, because they will. And I think that Democrats have to be very clear that it's not going to be enough to kind of just bring up Trump's name as a way to kind of stand in for having an affirmative campaign. I mean, I think people like Josh Shapiro, and I think people like John Fetterman. I think Fetterman is not going to have a problem at all being aggressive in his campaigning. He's already been doing that. But Shapiro really needs to kind of not rely on bad Trump, right? It needs to rely upon bad Mastriano, right? This is why Mastriano is bad, but also what is he going to stand for? And not sound like he's just reading off some sort of consultant, preordained script. He needs to be able to kind of bring the game to the table. So
Well, he does because there was I think he really does. And like I said, I don't disagree with anything that comes out of Shapiro's mouth, right? Like he talks a good game. I think he has the administrative skills, you know. I think he has the bureaucratic skills to do the job of governor. I have no doubt that if there was anti-abortion legislation that comes across his desk if he's elected, then he's definitely going to veto it, right? Like I'm
100%.
not worried about that from him as a candidate. What I'm worried about is his ability to control what's happening in the state so much, right? And the ability to get the Democrats geared up to really put effort into fighting the extremism that's going on everywhere, right? And like you had said before, our state is like an experiment. We're like a laboratory right now
Yep.
of this. So
Yep, all hands on deck, I think. And Ross also said that they had an aggressive Republican pushing the America First candidates at the GOP table inside the
oh
entrance against the rules.
oh yes, I'm sorry, we had that too. I can't believe I forgot that they were wearing their America First, Bucks First t-shirts, and they were talking about that. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, and he said that he was handing out their information instead of the endorsed GOPs. It was hilarious to see the America First folks going up against the traditional Bucks or traditional Republicans party. These are like, look, these are the Andy Meehan folks, right? These are the people
Yes,
who
they
are
definitely Andy Meehan folks.
Yep, exactly. These are, this is why, remember way back when Amy's on the show, we were talking about when she went on to one of Andy Meehan's meetings and saw that the organizing was there, and their goal is to get rid of the leadership of in the Republican Party in Bucks County. They are anti-Fitzpatrick. They are of the radical right, and these are the folks that are showing up at the polls. And it wasn't just one rando, right? These are people that are organized and prepared. You don't get a T-shirt made up the morning of, right? You're prepared to go into that day. So these folks are organized. We got to work cut out for us. So anyways, okay, we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to come back. We're going to do a little round of what's up in Bucks, take a look what's going on moving forward, and then we'll just stick around for a little bit of last call with some book chat. Amy and I got some things cooking up in the book area. We got not cookbook, but book cooking. I don't know. That's bad. I'm just going to shut up. All right, this is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. We will be back right after this quick break with a little what's up with Bucks. We'll be right back. Oh, you know what happened? It has to happen. In order for the music to play, I actually have to turn the volume up. So I'm going to do that right now, and now we're going to play it. We'll be back right after this quick break. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Kevin Mahoney here once again with Amy Knecht. We're going to do a little segment of What's Up with Bucks, and I also have to apologize if I'm kind of blowing your ears off with the music on this. I'm having weird stuff going on with my levels today, so I apologize for that if it's indeed the case. On my end, it sounds loud. I have no idea how it's sounding when it's kind of coming out on the stream, so if that is the case and you're having to go, oh, my bad. I'll figure it out. We'll try it for next time around. So Amy, what is up in Bucks is the question.
Well, it was an exciting week. There was the abortion rights rally in Doylestown, which I just want to congratulate. That was student led. So anybody who was there, that was organized by students. They do such an amazing job down there. So I just want to put a shout out to, Rise Up Doylestown, all those students that organized that, Marlene Prey, everybody down there. Fabulous job. It was a really good rally. It was great. We had a lot of high profile speakers. We had Ashley Ahaz, Josh Shapiro was there. They had the president of the NAACP. Then there was, oh, also too, Kitty Colbert was there and she spoke as well, which was exciting. So it was a really good rally. Ashley Ehaz was on fire though. She had a message for Fitzpatrick. This should have been televised. He basically was like, "I'm coming for your seat in Congress," and she means business. So now that she secured the Democratic nomination, I'm really excited and hope to hear her again. Um,
Yeah, I hope so too. And I like I said to you like ahead of time, and I can say to people now is like my plan. I was going to be at that rally, and then I found out there was like they had to schedule and reschedule the delivery of all my election materials, and of course they delivered it smack dab in the middle of the when the rally was. I'm like, okay, great, but I can't like. I mean, I had to be there to sign all this stuff, and also I'm like, I can't
yeah.
just like But I so let me ask you. I know Gwen Stoltz spoke for a bit there too as well, didn't she?
She did. She was there. I had. There was so much going on
Yeah, yeah.
there. She spoke. There was a couple of people. Like there was a lot of speakers. They had people. They had candidates speaking. They had women speaking who have had abortions, telling their experiences. There was poems. There was a lot going on. There was a lot, but it was all. It was a lot of it was positive, right? It was very inspirational. These people were like, this these rights are worth fighting for, right? Like my life is better now because of being able to have access to abortion care, being able to have access to reproductive, rights and stuff like that. Like people are able to make those decisions for themselves, especially for women.
Right.
Able to, because I mean, having children is, that is a lifetime commitment for both for men and women. But being able to decide when and where and whether or not you even want to have children is such a personal decision, right? And that's not, as everybody who was there professed, that's not anybody else's decision. That's not their choice. So I think it was a really energetic crowd. There was like 400 or 500 people there. It was real positive. I don't think that there was a lot of misgivings. There wasn't really any counter protests there, which was good. I was really hoping that there wasn't going to be much of that, just mainly because of Josh Shapiro being there and some of these other people. So
Right.
there was a bit more of like a heavier police presence, but not anything out of the ordinary for Doylestown.
No, good. I was excited, and I'm thrilled, and thank you again for kind of shooting me some videos and some pictures of the event during it live. I felt like okay, I've got a little taste at least of being there for what's going on, and I agree. I saw some of the streams of Ashley Ehas's speech, basically saying, "Look, Fitzpatrick, we're coming for your seat, right? We are not going to be, she's like, I think the line was something along the lines of, look, I didn't kind of go out and risk my life for this country to come back and be treated as a second-class citizen."
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. She's adamant about that. I mean, she's really, I wasn't sure about her at first. Like I liked her spirit, but I wasn't sure if she was going to catch on with Bucks County voters. And I was a little surprised, and I'm really glad to see that she's making progress. I think she's going to give Fitzpatrick the run for his money that he needs. Like I think she's going to get him.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, and again, I think this, I've said this I mean, too many people at this point. But I said, look, I think this is she is the candidate that we need despite the Democratic consultant class infrastructure, right? I mean, I think my concern, I've said this before, is that one of my concerns with Ashley Ahas from the beginning was, the pattern of how these candidates emerge was being repeated, right? Is that she was not somebody who had been kind of organizing for years in Bucks County. She had connections with folks in DC. She had done kind of some of the consulting work. And I was like, okay, great. Here we have someone else who's ticked the boxes, right? That's going to be coming here, and they're going to think they're going to be able to run a big PR campaign that's going to mean something on its own. But I have to say, I've been nothing but impressed when she's come here. She's put in the work. She shows up for everything. She's knocking on doors. She is campaigning fiercely. And I loved her launch video, and the fact that she is keeping that tone and that approach at this point in the campaign is outstanding. So, I mean, I think she has proven to be a candidate that people can not only vote for, but could get behind and organize for. So I'm thrilled with that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, she was one of the highlights of the day. The other two highlights I was really impressed with was Karen Downer of the Bucks County NAACP spoke, and I love listening to her talk. She's fantastic, and she slammed, she slammed the Alito draft opinion, and she reminded everybody again, that like his whole argument is that Roe is unconstitutional because there isn't a precedent or a history of this as being a democratic what did she say, a deeply rooted tradition, right, in our democracy, in our country. It's not in the Constitution, and then she reminds everybody that, like, well, for the majority of American history and for most of women's history, women weren't included in these decisions.
Exactly.
So it's really not, you can't really compare the last 50 years of having Roe to the last, I mean, forever of women's history, basically.
100%.
It's just not comparable, and she really poked through that. She called Justices Alito and Kavanaugh and Barrett and Thomas basically, having 17th century views and being like they're okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, like, to the point, like, literally they're citing them in their brief.
They are. Oh yeah, they are. They definitely. And then the other person who spoke was Kitty Colbert, and I wasn't really too familiar with her. I did some research on her. I mean, she had said up when she was speaking, she was talking about how she had argued Planned Parenthood versus Casey at the Supreme Court, and I looked up some information on her. I mean, I was blown away. She was a little spitfire up there on the microphone. She's an older woman, but I was blown away by her. She's a public interest attorney. She co-founded the Center for Reproductive Rights. Let's see. She argued the Planned Parenthood versus Casey in 1992, which upheld and it reaffirmed Roe as a constitutional right. But she did write that, pro-choice Americans, that we have to prepare for the likelihood that Roe will be overturned. And she really stressed that point, that this is something that you have to realize might happen. It probably will happen because ever since Roe, right, there's been all of this push to overturn it. It hasn't stopped. It's been a barrage ever since then. So she's basically stating, like, I think she's like, we've taken some of this for granted, right? The Democrats have taken this for granted. I mean, she didn't say that. I'm saying that. But
Yep.
But it's basically, that's what her gist was, is that we still need to continue this fight, right? Because they won't give up. So why should we?
100%. Yeah, she was she's just an amazing. I mean, she's been fighting nonstop for decades. So that's pretty freaking awesome. So, well, that's good. I mean, I'm glad that the day went off so good, and I'm glad that it actually served as kind of like a spurring on for kind of further organizing. Because I think that's the more that the better. And I think that you said this to me before too as well. I think that this summer is this is just going to be like launch day, right, for the organizing and the protests and the rallies that will be around this summer, given the fact that we expect the Supreme Court decision to be officially released a few weeks from now.
Are they definitely releasing
in June, I believe, is like when the planned release is. So I know, there we go. So also we've got the Palisades school board meeting, which was well, I'll just let you go. Tell us about what happened at the school board meeting.
It wasn't a super exciting meeting last night. It was rather quiet. There was less people in attendance. We have a lot of the far right members in this area weren't there in attendance, so the meeting went smooth.
Yes, exactly.
But it was the very first live stream meeting since COVID that we've had anything like that, and that's congratulations. I'm so excited. There was a big community push to get the board to approve a live stream option for people because, I mean, let's face it, Palisades board meetings, the regular board meetings, are on Wednesday nights, right, at 7 o'clock.
Yep. Sometimes
there's meetings beforehand that you can attend, and that's a hard time, right? It's just a hard time for parents to get to. And having that live stream option allows, if you can't get to the meeting, you can view it from where you are at home, right? And still know what's going on, because there's a really big issue right now in Palisades with transparency. Not with everything, but with enough to be concerned about. And I think that's good. I think that our school board needs to show their faces to our community in a more accessible manner. So congratulations. I'm so glad to everybody who pushed for that and supported that. You know, and then we even have board members, and they were speaking up on behalf of having live stream options for other meetings, right? Because committee meetings are still not streamed. You can't even call in. You have to show up face to face for those. So we do have a lot of support.
Yeah, I have to say, you know, that's been a huge bonus for and like Penridge does stream all their meetings online.
Mm-hmm.
And I could tell, you know, number one, I could say that, you know, usually when the board meetings is usually when I'm doing my show on Monday night. That's when our board meetings are. And so I'm just, you know, I've got this conflict. I can eventually, I guess I can move the show to a different time, whatever. But at the very least, I'm able to catch up on the board meeting, right? Afterwards, because not only do they stream it, but they also save the recordings and they're available, right? I think that's a great practice. And just like you said, a lot of the work of what happens at the board meeting is happening in these committees, right? So the fact to have access to the live stream of the committee meetings is great. And you know, it's the kind of thing like, look, when there's not major issues, and if things ever kind of quote unquote kind of like settle down, right, where into some sort of routine where it's not just these kind of constant crisis after crisis, you know, probably viewership will go down on that stuff. But the archive of those meetings is so critical, right? And so for when something does come up, you want as many people to have as many eyes on it as possible to be able to participate in the process. I mean, that's a great thing. And, you know, congratulations to all of you up there in Palisades who actually pushed for that and kind of got that done. I mean, it must have felt pretty freaking awesome to have that first live stream.
Oh yeah, definitely, most definitely.
Very good. Well, you know, while you know, so there's some other people that are putting some things online too as well, down in Central Bucks. Except this is kind of to bring us in the opposite direction in terms of like transparency and positivity. Central Bucks continues to go off the rails when it comes on when it goes on here. There's been a kind of more controversy around like trans kids being able to actually be referred to as trans, right? Being a whole bunch of issues. There's the Lenape Middle School. There's been a series of student protests in defense of trans rights, and now, of course, the next kind of like I feel like I'm being back in the 1980s, and I was a kid when you had the kind of moral majority coming in and kind of wanting everybody to kind of make all those women kind of say button up and clutch their pearls and make sure their knees aren't showing, right? You know, that's what it kind of feels like right now here again, because you've got under the auspices of this kind of parents' rights movement. Now Central Bucks caved to pressure, and you've got a loaded stocked school board who said, okay, we're, as a way of avoiding any controversy about, say, a trans girl or a trans boy having to be forced to go to the section of sex education that is appropriate to their assigned genders, right? Them being denied their ability to kind of go in that direction. Well, so what do they do? How do they solve it? Well, we're just going to give parents choice, that we're going to no longer offer sex education kind of in class. No, what we're going to do is we're going to have online modules that parents can choose whether or not their kids are going to have access to these things. Now, let's just talk about how problematic this is because the reason why sex ed in school is so important is because, especially in these super kind of fundamentalist and kind of right-wing kind of areas, who basically ascribe to a rigid patriarchal hierarchical order, or who are anti-gay and anti-trans, their kids who might be gay, who might be trans, a woman who did not want to just be a kind of a baby machine for the rest of her life, they get access to this information to allow them to kind of be a full participant in a democratic culture. And to basically say, no, those same parents that are forcing their kids into these kind of religious fundamental areas or into kind of being anti-trans, they are going to be forced to kind of get their parents' approval to have any kind of, you know, official sex education outside of the kind of regressive stuff that they're learning at home. I mean, that is completely messed up. That is completely messed up. It looks like we may have lost Amy there, but we got one more kind of thing here, so maybe she'll be able to kind of join back in, I hope. So that's something happened at Central Bucks. So while you've got the good news from Palisades. You can happen in Central Bucks there. Second thing is that, look, this is not quite an election day story or something like this, but I just was informed this morning, thank you for the tip, that Kim Badillion, who is the Kim Badillion, who is the head of the Penridge GOP, the Penridge Republicans, who was instrumental, who would bring her all sorts of conspiracy theories and, barely kind of cloaked racism to these committee meetings around the diversity, equality, and inclusion. Equity and inclusion meetings, what happened in Penridge. Now, of course, as we know, in Penridge ultimately killed their diversity program after years of work from parents. Well, Kim Badillion, who is going to really, she and her son, who are really at the kind of forefront of espousing some of the most kind of off-the-wall stuff, and who has been organizing around these anti-diversity, anti-CRT, anti-mask, all that kind of stuff. She has basically been appointed. Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry, I'm trying to do too many things at once. She has been appointed by the Percy Borough Council to the Civil Service Commission, right? And so the Civil Service Commission are, of course, the people who are in charge of the police. So now you have, again, any attempts to address, discrimination in policing, any attempts to kind of address diversity issues in kind of policing, or just have that foothold in the kind of overseeing the policing. This is not positive. This is not good. And of course, there was only one person who objected to that. A guy by the name of Steve Rose was the only no vote. And so they were moving forward. And so it looks like what is happening here in Percy is that we are going to see the Borough Council is now also going to be one of the next targets for what's going on. Let me see. I'm just looking at my messages. Okay, yeah, Amy lost her feed, so if she's able to jump back on, that's great. If not, we'll have here. So let me just say this, and then maybe I'll just kind of wrap this up, and next time around we'll talk about some of our little plans that we've got. Let me just kind of see here. Sorry for the disarray. So that's kind of one of the things that is there. That we happen here in Percy, and we're going to continue to follow what's happening in the school boards. Want to remind everybody that there's what was I going to remind you of? Oh yeah, Monday night we got Sarah Aniato who's going to be coming on the show, and we talk about social media disinformation and the kind of the rhetoric of the far right. This could be an awesome show. We'll see you for there. And then on May 30th at 7 p.m. we're going to have Kirsten Zolfel back on the show to unmask. Rip off the moderate mask from Representative Brian Fitzpatrick. So for that, so listen, I'll just give you a little heads up of kind of what we're thinking about, and then I'll kind of go off. I'll kind of end the show. It's like Amy's not going to be able to get back on right now. Weather is wreaking havoc to her internet. But so here's the deal. So one of the things we're going to close out with the last call today with like a little bit of a kind of like a book chat kind of thing. And we thought might be kind of a cool idea is to kind of, especially for kind of like a summer reading series or something like this, to kind of pick up some kind of cool books and just to have a collaborative open space to kind of do maybe like a Zoom call for kind of like a little reading club, and then to make the recording of the discussion kind of available to our patrons. But to invite folks who listen to the show, if you want to join in. And Amy and I thought it'd be kind of just a cool idea to dig into some books. Which is the one that we were talking about, and this is what kind of got us talking about things. Like I read a bunch of science fiction and kind of some fantasy stuff, and so does she. And we started talking one day about the show Wheel of Time, right? The Wheel of Time, which is I want to say it was on Amazon, I believe. But this is coming out of these series of books from Robert Jordan that I think, God, there's like 13, 15 more books in this series. But anyways, they had the series came out and the show was amazing. And I have never read the book, and Amy hasn't read the book. So we say, hey, this would be kind of a cool opportunity to kind of read it kind of together, and we could talk about it and things like this. And then we could bring other people on and it kind of be a feature on the show. So there it is, Wheel of Time. So the first book, this is Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. It's the book 1 of Wheel of Time. So that's kind of what we're thinking about. And maybe we'll kind of get into some other books as we move on. It'd be kind of a cool thing to do where just, it's not overtly political, right, for a change, but nonetheless has, all these features and things that we're interested in talking about. So you have more information about that going forward. Last thing I want to do is plug once again. Look, we've got we've teamed up with Level Field to start our own PAC that's going to be devoted on supporting basically progressive school board candidates. That is going to be supporting the organizing efforts on the ground of progressives on the ground here in Bucks County. It's a way of putting some resources, and again, we don't have big billionaire backers, but it's a way of putting some resources towards organizing efforts and kind of doing an end around the Democratic Party consultant class in order to kind of support the candidates that we know that we need. Now, I have to say I haven't done a kind of a big launch of it yet. I wanted to let this go start slowly to see how it was rolling out, and so I got to understand kind of how it was going to work and what kind of feedback we're going to get. And I can tell you this, we have already, we've been doing this now just for a few weeks. We've already kind of raised more than $1,000. So we've had some folks who are chipping in. You can chip in $5, you can chip in $10. I've had some other folks who've chipped in larger amounts, which has been fantastic. I mean, not like, billionaire amounts, but people are basically saying, yes, this is a good idea. And I've been very pleased with the feedback. The other thing that I will say about that too, as well, you're going to hear more from this with me the weeks coming forward too, as well, when we do a little bit of a more public launch, is that we're also going to kind of build in an advisory board to the for the PAC. And so what that advisory board will basically allow me to do is basically say to talk with folks from kind of around the county, right? We're gonna focus our efforts initially in kind of Upper Bucks and maybe kind of some of the districts in kind of bordering on Montgomery County, basically working on building organizing efforts kind of around what's been happening in the school boards, right? Depending on what we talk about in those advisory things, we may kind of decide we want to throw into some of the state legislative races too as well, and the idea is just to kind of again be both an opportunity to kind of put our resources behind, say, particular candidates that we think are important in our community, but frankly, also to help being another site of organizing, right? Another reason for us to come together and kind of think and work concretely on things, and where we could do, hopefully, like have a positive impact of what's happening. It's about, it's the same logic behind any kind of small dollar campaign, is that you want to be able to, you have, the people who are kind of investing in this thing are going to be kind of the ones that are going to have an influence, and hopefully it's going to directly support. So instead of it's going out to some sort of abstract move on campaign that you don't know where exactly those dollars end up, this is going to the dollars go into this PAC and they come back to our community. They come back into supporting the candidates that we need, and to push back against this kind of right-wing infrastructure. And, ideally part of it too as well will go to help exposing some of their right-wing infrastructure. So we're looking forward to that. Got some other projects in the works too as well that I'm going to have to, I'll put on hold until we get it done. And goes on. Yeah, Amy's feed went down, so she just texted there. But Amy, it was great having you on the show again too as well. Thanks, Amy Knecht, for kind of joining me on this kind of wacky Thursday it's Friday Politics Roundup on Thursday kind of thing. So I really appreciate it. So I'm sorry I was kind of talking a little bit here at the end. Frankly, it was riffing a little bit. So to see if Amy can get her feedback up, it's not going to happen. So we'll kind of close it out here. So Amy, I did mention this stuff about book talk. So maybe we can start that next week. That'd be fantastic. That means I'm taking it, Amy. Then she's right in chat right now. That means that you're coming back on the show next Friday. Is that what I'm hearing? I'm hoping that's the case. That'll be fantastic. And then we can get into some of the stuff on book chat and give some updates of what's happening kind of around the state. Yes, Amy will be back next Friday. Fantastic. Now my day just got better. All right, everybody. This is Kevin Mahoney, creator and founder of Raging Chicken. Special shout out once again to my amazing special guest host, Amy Knecht, for being here once again, and thank her for all the work that she's been doing. You can follow all our work right here at Raging Chicken. I want to remind you can help support the show by going to patreon.com/rcpress. You can go to Patreon and help support this work for as little as $5 a month. And if you want to help donate to our PAC, you can actually head on over to ragingchicken.levelfield.net and you give what you can. This is Kevin Mahoney, editor and founder of Raging Chicken. Thank you all for tuning out today. I'm excited to have some rest this weekend, hopefully. Fingers crossed. All right, everybody. Good fight this week. Keep it up. Let's do it. See ya!
Let me try my people call.